How much should you do? You got to come up with a philosophy of how much should you do. We're all governed by our thinking, our evaluation, what we've decided and how we feel. And this is a big question. What should you do? Shoaff gave me the best answer when I was 25 years old. Here's what he said. Do all you can. How many books should you read in the next 6 months? As many as you can fit into your schedule. Because the book you miss won't help. What if a guy missed the book, Think and Grow Rich? The guy's 40 and poor and he missed the book. He lived in the right country, but he missed the book. He was a nice guy, but he missed the book. He was very sincere, but he missed the book. He worked hard, but he missed the book. I'm telling you, if you miss the book, no telling what treasure will be missing in your life if you just miss the book. How hard should you work? The ant philosophy. The man says to me, I'm making about $50,000 a year. Isn't that enough? Now, what would be your philosophical answer to someone who says, I'm making $50,000 a year, isn't that enough? He said, my kids are doing okay, and he said, I got my bills paid. So what would you say if a guy says, I'm making $50,000 a year, isn't that enough? I said, yes, $50,000 a year is enough if it's the best you can do. We don't call enough an amount. We only call enough your best. If you're capable of making $500,000 a year and you make $50,000 a year, we call you loser. Now, it isn't the difference between $50,000 and $500,000 that's important. What's important is the full extent of your reach. That's what's important. The only way to feel maximum good about yourself is to extend yourself to the full capacity of your reach, your intellectual reach and your physical reach and your potential and your possibility to do the best you can. What should you do? All you can. How many books should you read? As many as you can. How many skills should you learn? As many skills as you can. How many people should you touch? As many as you can. What all should you engage in? As many things as you can. Why not go to the max? I've got a good question for you. How tall will a tree grow? As tall as it can. Did you ever hear of a tree growing half as high as it could? No. Trees don't grow half. They grow all. Full. They drive their roots as deep as they can, stretch as high as they can, produce every leaf they can. Trees go to the max. Now, why would human beings settle for less than the max of their capacity? Simple answer. They have the power of choice to do so. It gives us the dignity of being human beings called the power of choice. So we've got a couple of choices. Let me give them to you. Here they are. To be all or to be part. Now, this is a philosophical discussion. You can choose to be less than you were designed to be, or you can choose to be all you were designed to be. I'm merely suggesting that you ponder what the all might do for your life in the next 1 year, 3 years, 5 years. If you refined your philosophy of activity and went for it all. So the difference in value is not the amount. If you do the best you can and you make $10,000 a year, we call that enough. If you do the best you can and you make $1 million a year, we call that enough. Enough is not the difference between 10,000 and a million. Enough is simply doing the best you can. A group of psychiatrists invited me to come and lecture in Los Angeles. Not too long ago, I thought that was fascinating. I never graduated from college. But they wanted to hear my story, so I go talk to the psychiatrists. Then in the middle of my talk, I had the audacity to say, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you what I think most messes with the mind. They said, what do you think most messes with the mind? I said, I think it is simply doing less than you can. Messes with the mind. It causes all kinds of psychic damage, I think. Simply being less than you can be. Doing less than you could do. Trying less than you could try. Doing it with less enthusiasm than you could. I think it somehow damages the mind. It damages our self-image. Because here's what I've discovered happens. The minute you turn this around and start extending yourself, it isn't the value you get from extending yourself that's the greatest value. It's how you feel about yourself that's the greatest value. Because, see, it's not what we get that makes us valuable. It's what we become. And part of becoming is to see what all you can become. See what all you can do. See how much you can earn, how much you can share, how much you can start, how far you can reach, how far you can extend your influence. Now, that kind of commitment to philosophical thinking about attitude and about activity, we call this the potential for life change.
do the best you can, we covered earlier, but here's a good scenario for the do the best you can. I've got a good question for you. Is the best you can do all you can do? And the answer is no. Strangely enough. If we all fell on the floor right now and did as many push-ups as we possibly could, and let's say for some reason you haven't been into push-ups lately, I can't imagine why, but let's say the best you can do is 5. And you look up at the rest of us and say, hey, 5 is the best I can do. We can tell by the look on your face that's probably true. 5 is the best you can do. Now, is 5 all you can do? The answer is no. If you rest a little, you can do 5 more. Wow. And if you rest a little, you can do 5 more. And if you rest a little, you can do 15 more. How did we get from 5 to 15? It's a miracle. And if you rest a little, you can do 15, rest a little, you can do 15, rest a little, you can do 20. How did you get from 5 to 20? It's a miracle. Did you know you can keep doing that? Do a little more, rest a little, do a little more, rest a little, and finally get up to 50 push-ups? Is it possible to get up to 50 push-ups? Of course. How do you go from 5 to 50? It's a miracle. How do you get a miracle going? Number 1, do what you can. Don't leave out what you can, from writing a letter to your mother in Florida. Start cleaning it all up. 2, doing the push-ups. Go from 5 to 50. It's a miracle. Number 1, do what you can. Number 2, do the best you can. Here's number 3, rest very little. Don't rest too long. Why? The weeds take the garden. Kids have got that figured out. You can't rest too long. Here's the clue. Make rest a necessity, not an objective. The objective of life is not to rest. The objective of life is to act. Think of more disciplines. Think of more ways and means in which to use your own wisdom and your own philosophy, and use your own attitude, your own faith, your own courage, your own commitment, your own desires, your own excitement. Invest it, invest it, invest it, invest it in discipline so that it's not wasted. The smallest of discipline. Thereby transform your life.
It is so important to understand this. If you want to influence and help people, here's the key. Success is a doing. You've got to actually do it. Activity is high priority in the life process to try to get maximum benefit out of what we have available. Activity. Now, here's an important question. What is your philosophy about activity? What about hard work? What about long hours? What about full days? If you're doing something, how hard should you go at it? How much time should you put in? Everybody has to develop their philosophy about activity. Just by way of review, let me quote you. Old Testament says, 6 days activity, 1 day rest. That's called philosophy of ratio of activity. What is a good ratio of rest and activity? Old Testament says 6 days of one, 1 day of the other. You say, well, that's kind of old and outmoded. Well, maybe it is. I don't know. Maybe that's too old a philosophy. The old 6-1. Now, we've got it down to 5 and 2. Maybe 5 and 2 is okay. I don't know. If God would have thought of 5 and 2, he might have made it 5 and 2. But we've all got to have a philosophy about activity. Because your philosophy of activity will affect the rest of your life. Not to think so is naive. I've got a good clue on rest. Make rest a necessity, not an objective. The reason for life is enterprise. The reason for life is productivity. The reason for life is to see what we can do with the seasons and the chances and our mind and our spirit, ourselves, to see what we can do. That's what life is all about, to see what you can do. Now, the doing, you've got to have a philosophy on how much time you're going to spend doing. And I've decided that enterprise is better than ease. If you rest too long, the weeds take the garden in the summer. So you can't rest too long. Life doesn't stand still. And the threat of life will start overwhelming the values of life if you just let it go. So we've all got to have a philosophy about activity. Let me give you one of the best I know. Here's what it says. An ancient phrase says, whatever your hands find to do, do it with all your might. That's a philosophy. You say, well, I'm getting by with half my might. Well, okay. But you've got to decide on your own personal philosophy of activity. Now, this philosophy says, do it with all your might. Do you think there's any value or virtue in that? Well, I don't know. You've got to decide. You've got to weigh this out, right? You've got to evaluate it for yourself and put it on your own mental scales, and you've got to come up with your own answers. How hard should you work?
There's a famous line that says, don't just be listeners, be doers. That's it, doers. The whole world loves the doers. That's what makes the wealth and the winning. Doing, disciplined, emotional action. Another famous line says, faith without action serves no useful purpose. Wow, what a major piece of information. Many people these days are big on affirmations. You have to be very careful of affirmations. Remember, there is a thin line between faith and folly. Here's the best I can give you on affirmation. Affirmation without discipline is the beginning of delusion. And there is nothing worse than delusion. Walking west looking for the sunrise. It's bad. However, affirmation with discipline can bring the most incredible results. But remember, they go together. Make sure you have a game plan to match your wishes. Otherwise, they will always be wishes. It is always easier to think than to do. It is easier to promise than to achieve. It is easier to pretend than to produce. It is easier to plan than to act. I ask you not to do what is easy, but to do what will actually bring you the achievements you seek. Why postpone your better future any longer? Get at it today. Get some new books, make a new plan, set a new goal. Ask some new questions, lock onto a new resolve, make a new effort, and do it all now. Another thing is to ask for God's help, which may sound a little strange. This is not a religious program. My personal word would be that humans are unique, but we could all use a little extra help. Of course, it's a two-way street. I think God will do his part. There is a story about a man who took a rock pile and in 2 years turned it into a fabulous garden, and people came from everywhere to see it. One day a man came by, saw the garden, and thought it was fabulous, but he wanted to make sure the gardener did not take all the credit. He had this deep feeling inside that a lot of people leave God out. So he toured the garden and had a chance to meet the gardener. When he met him, he shook his hand and said, "Mr. Gardener, you and the good Lord together have made this beautiful garden." The gardener understood his message and his point, so he said, "I think that's true. If it was not for the sunshine and the rain, and the miracle of the seed and the soil and the seasons, there would be no garden at all. But," he said, "you know, you should have seen this place a couple of years ago when God had it all by himself." I think that's true. We do play an important part in this challenge called making all we can out of all we have. The best advice I can give you is, if it's easy, do it easy. If it's hard, do it hard. Just get it done. Two of the most powerful words in the language, I will. Benjamin Disraeli once said, "Nothing can resist a human will that will stake even its existence on the extent of its purpose." Shortly put, I'll do it or die. The man says, "I will climb the mountain. They've told me it's too high, it's too far, it's too steep, it's too rocky, it's too difficult. But it's my mountain. I will climb it. Pretty soon you will see me waving from the top or dead on the side because I'm not coming back." Hey, that's powerful. Time and fate and circumstance call a hasty conference, and they all agree, we might as well let John have it. He says he's going to get it or die. Wow, that's it. Resolve. The best definition of resolve I ever heard was from a junior high girl in Foster City, California. I'm talking to the junior high kids, and I asked the question, who can tell me what resolve means? I got several hands. Some were pretty good, but the last one was the best. She said, "I think resolve means promising yourself you will never give up." I said, "That's it. Best I've heard. Promise yourself you will never give up. I asked the kids, how long should a baby try to learn how to walk? How long would you give the average baby before you shut him off? You say that's crazy. Any mother in the world would say my baby is going to keep trying until it learns how to walk. No wonder almost everyone walks. What a magic formula. The until formula. Good question. How long are you going to work to make your dreams of wealth and happiness come true? I suggest the until formula. It's the best. I want to appeal to you right now to go to work. I appeal to you to review your associations with those people around you. I appeal to you to set your goals, to begin the quest for developing yourself, and to embark on a journey leading to your own financial independence by following a well-defined plan. I appeal to you to enjoy your life as you seek to improve it. I give to you my strong appeal to seek knowledge so that your value to yourself and to others might increase. And finally, I appeal to you to discipline yourself for the control and management of the precious commodity of which we are granted only a limited amount, time. Work on all these areas, but by all means work. This is Jim Rohn giving you my final appeal. Let's do something remarkable.